We are standing on the deck of the middle floor of Noah's Ark. From here we can begin to see and appreciate the immense size and capacity of this vessel. Behind me, nearly 2 football fields distant, almost 600 feet away, is the other end of the Ark. The height from floor to ceiling here is over 16 feet. And the distance from one edge of the floor to the other at this level was 60 feet. This would provide a square foot capacity of over 30,000. But that does not begin to tell the story, because items could have been stored in a stacked fashion from floor to ceiling, providing an immense cubic capacity. This area, we believe, was used as a storage place for food and other necessaries that would be required during the journey. Once the outer surface of the ark was in place, this area would have been in total darkness. When Noah and his sons made their daily journeys here to take items to the top floor, some form of artificial illumination would have been necessary, such as torches or other things. For that reason, we believe that animals and humans did not reside in this part of the ark. We believe that only the top floor was suitable as living quarters. A system of ramps or stairs would have been necessary to give access between floors during the journey. We're still standing on the second or middle floor of the ark. What we'll be looking at is given merely in the way of a suggestion, but some similar concept would have been necessary. This longer ramp is less steep and would have been more practical for regular use. It joins this second floor to the top and would have been used by Noah and his sons on a daily basis to carry food and other materials from here up to the top floor. Creating a model of Noah's Ark was an educational experience in many ways. It required careful thought as to some of the practical issues that would have been faced by Noah and his family. One of those issues is addressed in the next section. It is presented merely in the way of a suggestion for your consideration. We are at one of the two extreme ends of the ark, looking down into this large rectangular tank-like area. Each of these had a capacity of 72,000 gallons. The two at this end, a combined capacity of 144,000 gallons, and likewise at the other end, 2 tanks. What was their purpose? We believe that there had to be some means for storing fresh water and also waste materials during the journey. It's important to remember that there was virtually no access to the outside world during the journey. There is a sort of a pathway that you'll notice here in front of us, and this pathway would have been useful to use large wheeled carts for moving materials from the outside as they came in and then to take them to their respective locations. It is a massive area here, over 50,000 square feet, and we'll be looking at it more here in just a moment. This particular view of the bottom floor of the ark is looking in from the side, the longest dimension being to my left and right, a distance of over 500 feet, nearly 2 football fields in length. But the distance across the floor here from edge to edge was also immense, 90 feet. It's by taking these dimensions that we come up with the figure of more than 50,000 square feet of floor space. But it is important to remember that materials could have been stacked from floor to ceiling, a distance of more than 16 feet, thus providing a huge area for cargo. These materials were items that were being stored for use primarily after the ark landed on the mountains of Ararat. You'll notice behind me is the pathway we referred to earlier that could have been used by the large wheeled carts to move materials into place. Also in front of me on the floor, you'll notice there is kind of a ribbed effect here. These beams would have served at least 2 purposes. One of them would have been to reinforce the structure of the ark itself, but the other purpose would have been to help to keep materials in place during rough seas. Crates or some other form of box could have been constructed by Noah and his sons in which to place materials, and they could have been so constructed as to fit neatly into these areas, and thus perhaps even interlocking would have been very rigid during transit. We are now on the top or third floor of Noah's Ark. Though this was the smallest in area, it is by far the most important. It is here that Noah, his family, and all of the animals resided for a period of approximately 1 year. Though it is the smallest of the three, it is still a very large area. The distance from side to side here is 30 feet across the floor, and likewise from end to end over 500 feet, even at this level. Thus the number of square feet of floor space was over 15,000. But it is the cubic capacity which is most significant. With a height from floor to ceiling of over 16 feet, the cubic capacity would have been more than 120,000. And we believe that this would have been sufficient for living quarters for Noah, his family, and all of the animals. In this section of the ark, we have some examples of smaller living quarters that would have been more common for the varieties of air-breathing animals found on the ark. We'd like to thank our assistants here today, both of them. It's important to remember that the average size of an adult air-breathing animal is that of a common house cat. The Genesis account does not give many details on how the animals' living spaces were constructed. So what we have to offer here again is merely in the way of a suggestion. It's important to remember that there were very few large animals such as horses or cows on Noah's Ark. And for those that were larger, it is possible, likely, that a traditional arrangement was constructed, such as what we see here. It is estimated that all living varieties of breathing animals sprang from approximately 25,000 different species. If we make a liberal estimate of both the clean and the unclean animals that were on board the ark, the total number of animals would have been something more than 50,000 and something less than 60,000. For sake of argument, let's assume the higher number of 60,000. Taking that with the estimated cubic capacity of this section of the ark of 120,000 cubic feet, this would have provided an average living space for each of the animals of 2 cubic feet.